Hello everybody and welcome to Retail Draw. So we're really excited to start this session. We're going to talk about lots and lots of juicy social media content. So social media remains high on the list of priorities for any design-led fashion business, and it's a valuable tool to engage, to find your audience and to promote upcoming campaigns and really to drive sales. Now, having a strong social media presence is essential for every part of the customer journey, and we're going to talk through various aspects of this. Social media allows businesses to communicate directly to their customers, allows them to communicate with all of their stakeholders in every aspect of their business. It helps create trust, create engagement, and above all, create and engender loyalty. That said, the world of social media moves rapidly, so it's important that we stay mindful and on top of the trends. What is happening in the industry? What direction is the social media industry going? Innovative platforms like Facebook and Instagram are constantly changing their algorithms, constantly adding new features, and knocked me off my course. Constantly adding new features, and so it's really, really important to know what's coming up in order to really navigate the next year in social media. So I'm Fiona. I am a PR coach and expert and founder of Boss Your PR, and with me I've got Enass, founder of Studio Enass, and Charlotte Left, founder of Studio. What is wrong with me? Social Marmalade. So let's get started. So we've got 10 trends for you today. Trend 1 is the expansion of social media commerce is going to continue. Now, this is how Instagram, Facebook, other platforms are becoming shoppable. Now, we've seen it happening over the last couple of years. Brands are using these platforms to sell their products, and it's really become almost a retail avenue in its own right to social media. Your goal should be to create a frictionless shopping experience. So you want to remove any hurdles that a customer might face when it comes to purchasing. So you don't want to trip them up. You don't want to give them any pause for thought, any reason or any moment for them to back out of that purchase journey. So offering direct one-click purchasing options will boost customers' confidence, will lead to increased sales. Charlotte, I'd be interested to get your take on how social media commerce is developing and will continue to do so throughout the next year.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've seen from Instagram, last year they made a big statement that Instagram shopping is one of their top 4 focuses for the next few years, certainly. It'll be very interesting to see when the checkout feature finally lands in the UK. I actually found a UK account that does have the checkout feature. So if you want to have a quick peek to see what's coming, have a look at Opoly.
Tights?
Yeah.
Opoly, is that
it's
tights?
Not, it's fashion items. They might have
okay.
tights in there. But I noticed when I had an item in my checkout on Opoly, I actually got an email to say that I still had an item in there, and it's a full checkout with PayPal. So that's to come. But sadly, we haven't been given an indication or any sort of time frame as to when the checkout will come to Facebook and Instagram. However, TikTok have announced that they have got a collaboration with Shopify. So that, in my mind, is going to speed up Instagram. So I'm hoping this year we will get the full end-to-end shopping experience. And I think that will expand so that if you're working with influencers, you'll be able to approve certain influencers, which you can do now, but they will be able to tag products that they are featuring in a post or a video, and people will be able to buy those products from an influencer account, and it will all be managed by Instagram. Now, there is a trade-off.
Right.
So one thing you want to be mindful of before we all get very excited is the fact that Instagram is going to have all that data, and it'll be interesting to see how much data they will share with the retailers. So that's one thing to take into consideration. And the other thing is the cost. They will take a clip per sale. That will also be something to consider.
Right, so a few issues to be mindful of, but it is definitely moving in the
definitely
direction
moving in that way. I mean, gosh, I do quite like an Instagram shop. I mean, God, it's going to make your lives easier. I mean, just think, you go on Instagram, you see something you like, and you can just buy the whole lot.
Yeah,
and not great for credit card bills.
No, but it's great for removing those hurdles, as we said, to the hurdles to purchase, making it easier for brands, businesses to sell through very quickly and easily on social media. So exciting times ahead, I think, with that trend. So our second trend is reaching new audiences will become a primary goal for brands. Now, being on social media, it's all about a continued growth of your audience, but this is going to become more prevalent because we want to avoid stagnating. We want to avoid an oversaturation of our audience. And yes, you'll have loyal customers, you'll have repeat customers, repeat purchasers, but you want to constantly be growing and replenishing the breadth of your audience in order to give you those people, those audience members that are ready for that sale, that are ready to purchase from you. Enass, is this something that is instinctively a focus for you?
Absolutely. I mean, social media is a huge tool for us.
Yeah.
We use it to grow our business. We use it to connect with potential new clients, with clients that we already work with. For us, our Instagram, for instance, is our portfolio. So I run an interior design studio. So, we have to look at it as a way of introducing potential new clients and showing them how we work. So our process, the beginning stages, the development stages of a project, how a space looks like once it's completed. And also, with the service that we provide, it has to be a lot more personal rather than corporate for us. So it's a great way for people to understand our brand, who we are, and at the same time, it's our portfolio. It's how we showcase what we do, and we may not necessarily always put like the perfect picture or the perfect image. People want to see, how did we get to that stage? What was the process behind creating this space? And it's for us, it's a free tool.
Yes.
And we've noticed that the more we increase our followers and our audience, the more inquiries we get, and then obviously the more the business grows.
Absolutely. And I guess for you, with the nature of your work as a designer, when you're working on a project for a client, you go through that duration, and then there's a lull. There's a period of time before that client then needs to come back to you for a refresh or for an extra project. So I guess for you, it's like sort of constant lead generation to keep that turnover.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, projects take a minimum of 6 months nowadays. So you constantly have to have content. You constantly have to, create new things, new content, and it can't just be the same projects. Obviously, we'll be working on numerous projects at the same time. So for our audience, they get really into, what project are you working on now? What's the process of this? How's, this project going? So they really do get involved. It sort of becomes a community.
Yeah.
A community of fellow designers and a community of potential clients, and also a community of potential designers who, want to get into the business.
Yeah.
So it's a great platform. I think Instagram for us works really well. We started getting into TikTok a little bit here and there, but we're still trying to see how that works for us. Facebook is great, but Instagram is really the best marketing tool for us anyway.
That's where your audience is.
Yes, that's our core audience.
Yeah. Super. And actually, a couple of things you mentioned there move us on really nicely to trend 3, which is a biggie, and it's one that has been growing consistently over the last few years. Video and live content will continue to dominate across all social media platforms and channels. Now, video is one of the most engaging forms of content. We can't argue that. We only need to look at the in-app developments from the likes of Instagram and Pinterest to see how heavily weighted towards video content these platforms are becoming. Instagram brought in Reels in order to compete with the huge growth of TikTok. And I think, as you mentioned, Charlotte, the 4 key aspects that the head of Instagram said that they would be focusing on is creators, video shopping, and messaging. And video really took the charge in that announcement, didn't it? And there was a lot of panic about photos and that sort of pictorial content falling out of favour. but we've got live streaming in the mix as well, which is also continuing to grow across social media, and it's expected to make up almost 20% of all internet traffic within the next year will be live streaming, live content. Enass, I know that there's something that works very well for you in terms of video content, and what's that?
So for us, again, it's the before and after videos of a completed project. So people love to see what a space looks like after it's completed.
That transformation.
Yeah, it's the transformation. Yes. I mean, you could always put a beautiful picture that's styled, but what does it look like before, And for us, it works great because it kind of gives potential clients the confidence to know that, that's what the space used to look like, and they've done this to it. So it works great for us. But in terms of video content, we've seen a huge increase in engagement, specifically during lockdown.
Yes.
So there was a lot of live interviews. We saw this with publications and magazines, interviewing designers. And it was really interesting because everyone was on their phone at that period, So for us, we really did try and push the video content as much as possible, not just before and afters, but on stories, interacting with our audience on stories. So for us, it's working really well.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the case for most brands and businesses on the platform, is that the video content that they might be putting out is what is most heavily engaged with. I mean, Charlotte, from your perspective, have you got any kind of starting points or top tips for people that are wanting, maybe feeling a little bit hesitant to get involved in video, but are wanting to take that step?
Yes. It's interesting you say about video content just increasing in demand. Actually, I teach lots of small businesses how to get started with video content, and that's by far the most popular course that I run at the moment. I think the starting point is really, I'd start with stories. I say it's a journey. Start with stories and get used to just showing up, talking to camera, because part of the reason why videos are great is showing stuff and talking about your services, but also sharing your story and talking about your business and why you love what you're doing, introducing the team. So that's that personal connection, and I think that really helps to start your video journey, because I think it's quite intimidating when you look at TikToks and Reels and you see some of these crazy transitions. And let me tell you, most of them, they've got professionals doing that behind the scenes. So they're really too slick for your liking, just think probably they've outsourced that. So be realistic. But I do think the more eye-catching and clever you can get with the transitions and using the editing tools. Personally, I love a tool called InShot. So if you want to start, you can film in the apps. Personally, I like to film on my phone. So get to grips with stories, then maybe start with the reels, the short videos. Start with 15-second reels and just think, I'm going to show something this week. Then it might be, I'm going to show something and then talk to camera and just tell people about my services or about my business. Or it might be a day in the life where you don't have to talk to camera and you can just film.
Just take your audience with you.
A few sequences with a nice bit of music over the top. I mean, you can show someone a room. So just walking into a room and just doing, a close-up of vase, rug, scanning out. So keeping the sequences simple, adding nice music I think they are very effective. It doesn't have to be dance moves, clicky moves. I mean, they're great too. I think for the fashion influencers, clicking your fingers and changing outfits or tapping your shoulder, they are fun to do, but they're not the be-all and end-all. But definitely InShot is my number one video editing tool. There is another one called CapCut, but I haven't used that one yet.
Super. Some great tips for getting started. And I think the thing is to find your style with video, to edge in and start working in a way that you feel comfortable with. So if that's not necessarily on camera, that's fine. Do the voiceover, do the moving into the room and get a little bit creative. Have fun with it. And this is the thing that I think overrides everything to a certain extent, is that you're on these platforms to reach your audience, to communicate with your customers, to generate those sales. You've got to have fun with it. It's like, it's a necessary evil, so let's find a way to enjoy what we're doing on these platforms. So our fourth trend, paid advertising will become a necessity. Now, you may all have seen this, that your organic reach on social media platforms, maybe particularly Instagram and Facebook, has declined slightly. And this is really necessitating the need for investment in advertising. And 64% of marketers say that the most challenging social media problem today is the decline in organic reach. And it's got businesses looking for other ways to target their audience. So if you consider that the average organic reach for a Facebook post is just slightly over 5%, that's a huge percentage of your audience that you're not reaching with that organic content. So leveraging social media ads will allow businesses to tap into more targeted customer pools. It means potentially or hopefully generating higher quality leads and really getting in front of a larger percentage of your audience. So it leverages the audience you've got, but it also helps you and allows you to grow that presence and grow that audience. So just a few pointers in supporting you exploring paid ads. I mean, that's a whole session in itself, but just think about your goals to start with. So define your goals. You need to know the whys behind your actions. So the goals will be the driving force that will support your social media strategy. Keep in mind that they need to be specific. You need to set attainable goals, and you need to make sure that your goals are measurable. So what are the outcomes that you're getting in relation to your goals? Know about your target audience. That will really help you with your niching of that sort of the audiences that you're looking to speak to with the advertising. And I think, Charlotte, you mentioned storytelling. Is using the art of storytelling in your advertising is really, really important. Front load that content, capture people's interest, take them on a journey, tell a story. And yes, ads can feel quite salesy, but if you think about it as storytelling, not selling, then you will take customers on the right journey. They will convert in a more authentic way. They will respond to you more authentically. So that's just a quick whiz through trend 4. Trend 5, influencer marketing will continue to soar now. This isn't going anywhere. Influencer marketing has been booming in the last few years, and it's become a very key consideration for brands and businesses when it comes to their promotion, when it comes to their presence on social media and getting in front of their audience. So there is a huge rise in the number of influencers on social media, but also a rise in the marketing spend that is dedicated towards working with them and targeting a broader audience as a result. So this is, those are two reasons why it's becoming more popular, and it's continuously getting stronger as a promotional avenue. However, there is within this a shift towards authentic and unfiltered influencer content, resulting in the need for brands to partner with the right influencers, to find the ones that really align with their brand. So Charlotte, I know this is something that you've been exploring with clients, that you've been working on. I mean, what are your thoughts on the rise of influencer marketing, and maybe some key do's or don'ts when it comes to embarking on that promotional avenue?
I will say, in my experience, and I've worked with a few different, predominantly fashion, but also homeware brands, influencer marketing really does work if you partner with the right influencer. On the same token, you can spend and waste a lot of money sending out gifted items if you haven't set the right expectations, or you're not working maybe with a professional influencer. So I think the most important thing that I would recommend is, firstly, do your research and look at influencers out there that you might see your competitors using, or influencers that that pop up that people mention. Go through their comments. So I troll through their comments, and I keep an eye on them for a couple of months before I might touch base. I might send them some messages, just see, do they respond to messages in a professional way? A lot of influencers are using PR agencies. So when you decide on your influencer, the thing that I would then check is, what is your budget for influencer marketing? Do you want to give gifted items. If you're giving a gifted item, you have less control of the content, and that can lead sometimes to quite a bit of disappointment, because you might be expecting your product to feature, front and foremost in that post, and it might just be a tag in a story. So that would be very important to set in stone, and I've been burnt a few times in that. And it's not the influencer's fault, it's just, not clear communication. If you're paying an influencer, it's really tough to decide on the budget. Quite often they don't know how much they're charging, so, just see what you can negotiate, and do negotiate. And you might want to say, right, we're going to do a one-off promotion, or I'm going to send you some items. I want you to create X amount of content. So again, just be really clear with setting your expectations and your goals. It might be that you need the post to come out on a certain day in line with the campaign. So I'd make that very clear. So I would put it all in writing on an email. So take the conversation off Instagram messages, email your influencer, depending again on the extent of your relationship. And then at the end of the campaign, when we were talking about how do you determine whether that has worked, you might want to give them a discount code. I know not everyone's a big fan of doing that, because you've already paid for, products and for potentially the influencer. So that could be quite costly to give them a code, and you rely on customers to give you that code back. But that is something you see. I see Sweaty Betty doing that a lot with their brand ambassadors. They give them 30% off codes that people use. The other way to measure it is if you can join an affiliate link, like reward style. You can give that influencer the code, and that's a way of them getting paid commission, but also for you to manage, you can see, the direct sales from their links. Or more casually, if you do a gifted promotion, you could just, look at the sales of that item in the next coming days. Hopefully that would be a way to see if that's worked for you or not.
I think picking up on your point about the affiliate schemes is, it's a great way to incentivize the influencer to work hard for you, but also to work hard for themselves, to push the product, to support the brand, because ultimately the better job they do of that, they will earn from their affiliate and commission. So I think it's interesting to get creative when it comes to working with influencers, and to really see what's possible. Just have those conversations. At the end of the day, these are all human to human interactions, okay? So we don't need to be fearful about starting these conversations and engaging with these so-called influencers. So if we skip on to trend 6, this is the increase in the use of social media for customer service. Now, social media is a retail platform now, it's a discovery platform, and it's also functioning as a customer service channel as well. So you are able to really connect with your customers in a very personal way, and this is especially if you are managing your own social media, isn't it, as opposed to necessarily outsourcing it, or maybe it's about getting the right balance of the two. I mean, the stats say that 71% of customers expect brands to offer a certain level of customer support through online messaging platforms, through social media, and 69% of shoppers say that they interact, or that interacting with a company via social media, it makes them feel more at ease with the brand. It legitimizes that connection that they have with the brand. It's a two-way street, marketing and social media, so you need to have that constant engagement and constant interaction. I know that there's and as for you, as a service business, social media tends to be the place where you maybe start the conversations while that initial inquiry comes through, but then you tend to take that to face-to-face or
absolutely.
email.
I mean, as your social media grows, so will the inquiries and the conversations, and the DMs. So for us, social media is the first. I mean, we have seen an increase in, DMs and how much is this, or where can I buy this from, or things like that. So it's the first initial hello.
Yes.
And also it kind of, I guess it helps the potential client or the customer feel a little bit more comfortable, because there's a face behind the brand. It's not corporate. It's there's not a robot that's responding to a message. It's either myself or someone from the studio. So it's a lot more personal. You know,
Yeah.
with our business, it's very personal. Interior design is a very personal service. So, you know, that means sometimes, you know, having a conversation on social media and then taking it
Yeah.
to, you know, emails, phone calls, and so on. But we have seen an increase in inquiries coming through social media. So it's you know, and also it's great for us to connect to other suppliers as well. It's not just clients, but it's also connecting with a fabric brand or a potential agent. So it's always a more personal touch.
Yes, so it's very personal interaction with a variety of stakeholders in the business. And Charlotte, I mean, I know we can look at chatbots and those kind of automations in terms of customer service, but what would you say? How are you seeing this sort of trend manifest amongst your clients and businesses you work with?
I think if you sell a high volume of items, I mean, looking around like dresses, bags, jewelry, I think you might find the more you're using social media, and if you're doing influencer campaigns, people are going to ask you very similar questions like, what's the sizing like, the colours, postage. So I know Instagram and Facebook have got some automated questions that you can set up. I think you can have 4 FAQs that can automatically generate. But I think it's worth having a conversation with your team that if you're going to do more social media marketing, maybe think about who's going to be monitoring those accounts. So who's looking at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, almost 24 hours a day. I'm sorry to say it, but people are looking, you know, on the weekends. People, I find, especially in fashion, people are shopping on the weekends, and that's where we get our highest volume of story views and engagement. So maybe just divvying out in your team, maybe you're outsourcing your social media to a social media person, but they're not going to know the sizing or the stock levels of items. So having other members of the team doing that, or if you're doing it yourself, have a backup person who has access to your social media accounts. Because the sad truth is, and this is going to be especially with the next, you know, generation, Gen Z, and the next, who's after that?
Oh, God knows.
They're going to want instant replies, and that's why they'll be looking on social media more than your website, because website's way too slow. You don't want to call someone; you want instant responses.
Yeah, it will become the expectation, won't it?
It will.
Absolutely. So that's an interesting development there. So trend 7 is user-generated content. This will continue to be popular, and user-generated content, it's not new. It's a growing trend. It's really about that authenticity. So what better advocate for a brand, for a product, for a business than a user, a customer, a loyal customer that is using that product, that is wearing that brand, that is interacting with the business and doing it in the most authentic way. And the things that have changed is how businesses and marketers are utilizing this UGC, this user-generated content. I mean, you've got brands like Daniel Wellington that are really motivating their users, their customers, to interact with them through the use of hashtags or running competitions. You know, share your pick with us and be in with a chance of winning X voucher or X product. And so this is really on the increase. And it's, you know, we talk about engagement, we talk about interaction, and this is one of the real I guess the catalysts for more interaction, but it's also a real manifestation of the interaction and engagement that you can generate as a business. Charlotte, from your perspective, how do you encourage clients to make use of user-generated content, but also to encourage it from their followers, from their customers?
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, user-generated content is the gold dust, but as a small business, it's really hard. I mean, if you're someone like Zara or H&M, it's so easy. Everyone's tagging Zara. I think it's the most tagged products on Instagram. But as a small business owner, it's very hard to get that content from your audience. And that's why, going back to influencers, they work really well. So I find if you can't get that content from your audience, it might be worth doing influencer campaigns just to get the ball rolling. So people are used to seeing your products used by different people in different ways and worn by different people. So it can help also with the issue around models as well, because that's a problem, well, a challenge. So that would be, I know that doesn't solve the question directly, but having campaigns like you've mentioned, maybe, encouraging, just mentioning it all the time that you love seeing your products used, or you love seeing rooms featuring your designs, or if they've been inspired by you. Talk about that regularly. I just think repetition on social media. Don't feel that you're ever going to be boring saying the same things, because people just forget it. So if you can just, use your captions to remind people, hey, we love seeing you wearing this, or we love seeing your rooms, we love seeing your homeware. That prompts people to tag you. So I find people tag probably more than they use your hashtag. I don't know, for smaller brands anyway. And it's worth just looking on your Instagram account. You've got three, what do they call, 3 tabs, and the third one is where people have tagged you. And quite often I'm surprised. I go in there and I'm like, oh, I've been tagged.
It's easy to miss, isn't it, in the kind of avalanche of notifications.
And then I go back to those, the author of that piece of content, and I will say, do you mind if we reuse that content and share it on our grid? Or as a default, I always reshare anything that we tagged in stories with clients, because you obviously, the quality of photography is not always brilliant with user-generated content, but I think stories is a great place to share all user-generated content. Yeah. And then you pick the best.
And then you can curate what goes on your grid or what goes in your mail outs or those kind of.
But I would always get permission from your customer before you do that. And then offline, if you've got really good customers coming in your shop, maybe you encourage, I don't know, it depends on your relationship. If you've got a shop or a physical location, or if you're going to visit, clients in their homes, if they're happy with you to feature them. And I find that I prompt people, especially my clients, oh, you look lovely coffee shop. This would be a great photo. Do you mind if I take a picture and then share it and tag them? So I'm quite proactive at doing that myself, just to get it going.
And I think it's quite authentic, isn't it? Like when you have a client reposting or taking a video of you, whilst you're in their home or doing whatever. I think your audience actually gets to see a different side. Yeah. It's very authentic. It's very real. It's not something that you had to think about and post. And, it's just sometimes... I think sometimes we overthink social media too much.
Definitely.
We overthink it too much, and sometimes people just want to see just the normal side of your job or what you're doing.
That insight, that behind the scenes, and real stuff.
You have to also understand that your audience know when you're being authentic, and they know when you're kind of forcing something a bit too much. Yeah. So just be authentic, be yourself.
Authenticity is the buzzword. So let's move on to trend number 8. So this is all about local targeting, and I've sort of touched on it when talking about advertising, that you can be very specific in terms of the audience that you target and who you are really looking to direct your messaging to. But there is a lot that can be done on all social media platforms in terms of geotagging, in terms of very targeted and region-centric hashtags that you can be using on your posts, or using to search for content, using to search for people or accounts that you might want to connect with. It's on the rise, and it's great for any region-centric businesses. So if you are bricks and mortar and you might be struggling to find a way to use social media in order to really get to your audience and really connect to your audience, then geotagging, using these region-centric hashtags is a great way to do that. Charlotte, is this something that you might actively encourage clients to make more of, to really get use from?
Yeah. I mean, especially around hashtags. Hashtags are so hit and miss these days. I find the hashtags that work really well are those targeted location hashtags. And even communities within that location, you'll often find hashtags around businesses, women, etc., etc. So, yes, that works well. And I think if you don't have the budget, perhaps, for influencer marketing, or you're not too sure where to start and you are starting out, I think the easy win is to find out who are the active businesses in your local area, because odds are they have got the same target audience as you. So I quite often link up those that have got, selling fashion, jewellery, homewares with food. So I think good starting place is, where's best local pub, and you can talk about that. You can test that content in your stories, and it could end up being a regular feature. But it could be that you champion local businesses, and that's a way. We're going to talk about community, but maybe that's a way that you bring your community together, that you regularly feature that. I do that myself because it's totally in my best interest to do that, because I'm targeting a local audience and I want to champion them and make sure I'm giving back. So I'll talk about what's going on, as well, as brilliant brands that I work with. So
super. So I think it's kind of embedding in your local community, isn't it? And building that network around you and being part of something a little bit sort of bigger than yourself, and finding your tribe, I guess. So if we move on to trend 9, which it's a trend in terms of kind of how the conversation needs to continue to evolve, really. So in 2020, we saw a lot of brands speak out against racism with promises to listen, to learn, to do better. And 2 years later, the question remains, what's next? So we are looking for a renewed focus on accountability and diversity, where inclusivity is going to be key. And this is so important that diversity and inclusion should never be a social media trend. There will be an ongoing conversation about holding brands accountable and really holding them to the promises that they make through their content and to their followers. So, we're looking for it to become the standard moving forward, aren't we? And Enass, what are your hopes for inclusivity and diversity across the sort of interiors and design-led industries?
What a question.
Sorry, it's a big question.
I think we need a glass of wine for this one.
It's a big question. Look, I've been in this industry for over 10 years, and it's a shame that we're only starting to have this conversation now.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's the same conversation within other creative industries. However, we are having it now. At least we're starting somewhere. I think we do lack diversity in the creative industry. Like, let's be honest, we really do. And I think it's so sad because you're, not only as a business, but how do I say this? When you don't expose yourself to other cultures, you only have one point of view, one point of creative design, one point of, look at how you want to create things. I think when you include people from different cultures, different backgrounds, it influences how you design, and I think if we don't start having these conversations, then we're kind of denying other cultures and other backgrounds of being a part of a creative process.
Yeah.
We're all inspired by our backgrounds and how we've grown up and, where we're from and our cultures. That all inspires us when it comes to designing and creating. So, it's great that we're having this conversation, but I think we need to do more.
Yes.
We need to, and it's not just a conversation for us to have. It's a conversation for everyone.
Yeah.
To do. But, at the end of the day, you just have to think, the more diverse your business or your studio or whatever it is that you do, the better results you produce in terms of your business, because you have different points from different people.
Yeah.
Which of course influences your creativity.
Yes, it's different inputs, it's different perspectives.
Absolutely. Otherwise, we're all going to design the same way.
Absolutely, and it benefits the audience then, it benefits the customers because they're getting that breadth of input, that breadth of creativity. And I think that's so important and something that kind of gets lost in conversation sometimes. Charlotte, from your perspective, is this something that you've worked with clients on in terms of them being very authentic in their advocacy of certain issues?
Yeah, and I think it's something that rather than, like you're saying, rather than it just being a trend or you just jump, you need to have a meaningful discussion within your business. What does this mean? Rather than just talking about Black History Month, I kind of sometimes get a bit cross when it's like, well, let's talk about that because it's trending on social media. But then what does that mean to your audience? How is it relevant? Do you actually talk about it as a business?
Back it up?
And people can see through that.
Yeah,
people
and
can
I agree.
See through that,
So I think it's taking it a bit further and going, right, this is not a trend that we need to jump on. This is significant. We need to use a different array of models, and I think it is also about different age groups, different size models as well, which I think is a huge problem still in the fashion industry. And I know it's a big challenge for small businesses to find different voices. It's tricky, and I think with influencers you can work with different agencies and actively seek out different agencies that have models on their book that represent different ethnic groups, different ages, different sizes. But I think we are beyond seeing just the same old perfect picture person on Instagram. I think it's time for change, and I think yes,
it's about representation across the board, isn't it?
But it's not an easy, quick fix kind of. Just run a campaign.
It's a conversation that you have to continue having. And I also think we need to start holding, publications and accountable, because we don't want to see the same faces. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of talented and creative people from different backgrounds. I'm positive that there is. So I think it's time to make a change, and it's time to show the next generation that you can do this. It's not just the market for one type of culture or one type of person. So I just hope, we do start to see some changes.
It's an ongoing conversation, but continued action is needed, isn't it? So our last trend is about social media communities. They're going to continue to increase. We have seen platforms like Facebook making great use of Facebook groups and communities in that sense. I think brands can also utilize this notion of creating communities, of building groups on social media, as they're great for market research, they're great for gaining that insight. What are your customers wanting? What are they inspired by? What kind of influencers are they following? What kind of media are they reading? So it can really inform your marketing approach moving forward. And as for you, how has sort of the social media communities played a role or supported you in your business development?
We've sort of started creating this community, this tribe, I think for social media, it's helped us because we have conversations with people in our messages, and it's people that have followed us from when we had 100 followers to people, who are still following us 10,000 plus followers later. So it's so important to have a community, because these people then will, speak about your businesses. They might not necessarily be your client, but they'll say, hey, actually, I follow this girl or I follow this lady or this man who does X, Y, and Z, and then that kind of leads to newsletters and other ways of marketing to your audience. So it's so important to build a tribe and your community, because these are the people that are going to help grow your business, because without them, how are you going to convert to sales?
Absolutely. That social advocacy, it runs through the heart of everything that is social media, isn't it? That you want those people to champion you, you want to build that community, you want to encourage that engagement. And it's the same words that come through again and again, isn't it? But we've slightly run over time, but I think we had some chunky discussion on our top 10 social media trends for 2022. We are going to hang around. I don't have to rush off, so rather than take questions from this point, we'll hang around. So if you have questions, if you want to know more about anything, then do flag us down in the next 10-15 minutes or so. Thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you. Thanks, Fiona.